Oh, we got a sponsor for the YouTube. That's right. Actually, it's not on my read today. Are we sure it's a sponsor? Oh, so we just jumped the gun yesterday? Okay. So we can't read them. We'll leave it alone. No shameless plugs. Oh, man. 888-957-9570. Phone lines wide open. Wide open. And the YouTube poll question of the day, did Brock Purdy rush himself back? And it's a 50-50 split on the votes right now. 50-50 split. So, Jay LaFrey, did I get bamboozled? What I get bamboozled with what? Bamboozled? About what? What about bamboozled about? The quarterback spot? I don't know. It's a little strange. Matt Barrows, the athletic, we saw him out there at camp. Matt Barrows, he goes out there and he evaluates. You see the way he works out there. He's locked in. He's got his notepad. He's been taking notes. And, Matt, thanks for coming on the roast once again, man. Oh, he dropped. Okay, we'll get it back on. We'll ask him about the quarterbacks. We'll ask him about the defensive linemen. We'll ask him about what he's seen so far through 2 days of camp as they wait to wear the pads. They'll wear the pads on Monday. They'll wear the pads. So, the sponsor. Yeah, Jay. Got bamboozled. Yesterday we were reading the sponsor. I guess it's not official, so we'll wait for it to become official. Or somebody could swoop in and Wally Pip the sponsor.
Brock Purdy them.
Let's go. Now we got Matt Barrows. Matt Barrows, the athletic, covering the 49ers for many, many years, formerly the Sacramento Bee. We trust his judgment. And, a lot of people are making a big deal about the first 2 days of camp. They're not wearing shoulder pads. They're not hitting yet. They won't do that until Monday. But obviously seeing Brock Purdy back on the field quicker, than we anticipated this offseason was a sight to see. And Brock Purdy, it was a great feat that he was on the field. But, Matt, I'll start off with this as we say thank you and good morning to you. Is there any inkling that Brock Purdy may be rushing himself back because of what's on the line this season for him and the 49ers?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they've got so much not a lot of money invested, but so much of the season invested in him that I don't think that they would play around with that. I mean, Brock Purdy is absolutely pressing for all the reps he can get. If it were up to Brock Purdy, he'd be practicing every day, and he's on this 2 days on, 1 day off schedule. Any quarterback, any NFL player is going to want to get in earlier than maybe the doctors and the team officials want, and Brock Purdy is no different. But I don't think that he's pressing too far. I mean, I think that they would be overly cautious. My point is, if you ask Brock Purdy, he could be going 100% all the time. That's how good that arm feels. That's how much confidence he has in that surgically repaired elbow.
How much leeway you think we've got going here in terms of the other players, the coaching staff, getting him ramped up? There's so much like win now. Everybody's got this sense of urgency. Everybody wants to make top dollar and win a Super Bowl. How much runway you think he's got here? Because I was watching Darnold yesterday. It's 1 day. Darnold looked really good. And it does feel like, this league is not for long. That's why it's the NFL. And so how much of a runway you think he's got here to ramp himself up before people start pressing?
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought Sam Darnold was the best-looking quarterback on Thursday. I mean, that could change. He wasn't the best-looking quarterback on Wednesday.
Agreed.
Yep.
So it goes from day to day. But, I mean, your point is a good one. And that was something that Brock Purdy absolutely understood last year. Remember, he took over during a time when the 49ers had gotten on a roll. Jimmy Garoppolo in that offense was humming when Garoppolo got hurt. And so Purdy felt that responsibility. Like, I've got all these stars around me. He's in that far corner locker, and he's within a few feet of George Kittle, a few feet of Christian McCaffrey. And he's a 22-year-old guy, the last pick in the draft. He absolutely felt the onus of what he had to do, and to his credit, he stepped forward. It never seemed to overwhelm him. So, based on that, I don't think it will, but it's an excellent point. I mean, all the questions this week are about windows and how long can the 49ers keep this group together financially, and how long, with Kittle entering his 30s, some of these guys hitting their late 20s, how long are they going to be this talented?
Yeah.
And I think that's the very reason why the 49ers like Purdy so much, is because he can sort of operate the system. He doesn't have to be a superstar. He can be a distributor. He just has to make the right decisions and divvy the ball up to who's open. He's basically an extension of Kyle Shanahan. I think that's exactly why Shanahan likes him so much. But you're absolutely right. If this team falters coming out of the gate, and it's the quarterback who's faltering, absolutely. I don't think it's going to be I think last year they went into that season committed to Trey Lance, and they were going to kind of suffer through some bumps and hiccups early on because they knew by the end of the season he would be a lot better. I don't know if they have that level of patience with Brock Purdy, just because not anything to do with Purdy and his issues. It's because there's so much talent on this team, and the expectations are so high.
No, that's a great point, Matt. We've been talking about that all morning. Matt Barrows here from The Athletic. I couldn't agree with you more on that point. Speaking of which, the other quarterback, because I agree with you, Sam Darnold to me was the best quarterback on the field. He anticipated through with zip. That beautiful ball he threw to Deebo Samuel on the sideline, one to Ayuk. Darnold did look good. He did have some mistakes, but out of all the quarterbacks, I thought he looked more polished. He was the more polished one. Speaking of which, Trey Lance didn't get a lot of reps yesterday. Where's the staff at with Trey Lance? Where's the commitment level to him from what you've heard so far about Trey Lance?
Well, I mean, you could just kind of look at it from a rep standpoint. He's essentially getting the same number of reps as Brandon Allen's getting. So it's a far cry from last year when they were just trying really hard to give him as many reps as they could, because they were trying to accelerate his learning curve. So, basically they're telling him, you've got to make do with what you have. You're basically in the Brock Purdy role from last year. Purdy got scant snaps last year, but he made the most of them, and that's what they want to see from Trey Lance. I don't think it was a very good practice for him. I have to have the caveat here of saying it's been two practices, so you can't read too much into this. But,
no doubt.
During the individual drills, he's just kind of throwing on air to receivers, running backs, tight ends. He hasn't been, that's where you should be 100% accurate. There's no defender in your face. There's nothing, and he's been a little wobbly. Certainly on Wednesday. And he got better as the practice went on, but that's the kind of you don't have that leeway anymore. You've got to be spot on from the start of practice to the end of practice, because there's so much competition, and we haven't seen that quite yet. I will say that one of the biggest plays, and probably one that probably got little notice, was one in which Lance didn't find anyone open, and he ran to the outside, and he outran a safety to the corner, and it would have been in a game, 25-yard gain on a third down. And in a game situation, that would have been a massive play that, you rerun the replays over and over to kind of underscore how big it was. In a practice, it sort of gets cast off to the side, and it doesn't show up in the daily stats that we put out there. But that's the sort of thing that he gives you that really none of these other quarterbacks do. So I think that has to be kept in mind when it comes to Trey Lance. His completion percentage might not be as high, but he's going to have those big gouge plays every now and then that perhaps these other guys don't have.
Yeah, I thought he looked a lot better in the drills yesterday than Wednesday, then performed weaker in the team drills on Thursday than he did on Wednesday. So it was like a reverse day for him. The Brandon Allen thing, though, is just, I find it baffling. I don't get it. I don't see it. It doesn't pass the eye test. I don't get why they're wasting time. Like if Darnold today, for example, when they flip-flop who's QB2, if Darnold has to wait 20, 25 minutes in between, team reps, to me that's a disservice to the team. I don't get what they're trying to accomplish with Brandon Allen. Do you?
Well, I can only think that part of it is looking ahead. Let's say everything goes according to plan, and Brock Purdy is the guy all season. They basically commit to Brock Purdy being their starter for the foreseeable future. Then you're in a scenario where you trade Trey Lance probably in the off season, and Sam Darnold is a free agent. So you get a pretty high draft pick, and what would it be, the 2025 draft for him. In that scenario, now you're looking for a backup quarterback, and you would have Brandon Allen, already well-versed in your offense. He's a lot like Purdy in a lot of ways. But you're right. I mean, talent-wise, he's clearly the number 4. And, most teams only have 3
Right.
quarterbacks. So, it is it is interesting. I will say that Shanahan and his coaches saw something in Purdy last year before the rest of us did. When Purdy started getting number 2 reps, it was almost baffling. Like what's going on? Mr. Irrelevant is now in the number 2 role. So they recognize something in him, and perhaps that same recognition is being done with Brandon Allen. But you're right. In terms of arm strength, in terms of potential, in terms of upside, boy, Darnold and Lance seem to be far ahead of Brandon Allen.
Matt Barrows here from The Athletic does a great job covering the 49ers. We had a great article this morning, too, in The Athletic about the defensive line and his defense. Steve Wilkes is quoted as saying, "I've never been around anything like this," when referring to the defensive line. And Javon Hargrave, even without the pads, had a huge impact on practice yesterday. It is great that you wrote about it because the strength of this team is still the defense, and they look like they're going to be as good as ever, Matty.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, are they better than last year? And I think the answer is yes, because of Javon Hargrave. I mean, he just gives them something that they haven't had. I mean, you saw kind of spurts of that type of player with DJ Jones. I think it was the 2020 season when he got a lot of reps, a lot of pass rush reps. But he only had 3 sacks that year. This is a guy who, theoretically is going to deliver double digits from that spot. He's just a different animal than they've had there. They had the 2 twin towers in Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner, and Javon Kinlaw is sort of similar in stature to those 2 guys. But Hargrave, I mean, he's just a hair over 6'1", and he's, 310 pounds.
Right.
It's just, I wouldn't want to be an Aaron Banks, for example, 6'5" guy, trying to, it's like trying to get a hold of a greased bowling ball. I mean, he just flies across the line of scrimmage and is so low to the ground. Very disruptive, got powerful thighs. Exactly what they were looking for there. And so the question is, what kind of domino effect does that have for Eric Armstead? Does it have for Nick Bosa? And then does it have for that other defensive end, which we don't know the identity of that guy yet? That's one of the sort of more intriguing parts to this very complete team, is who's going to be the starter on that end position opposite Bosa.
Well, I'm glad that kind of leads me into my little question here. I think it's going to be Drake Jackson. I think Drake Jackson is flashing. I'm seeing a guy that's starting to pop. He made a nice play multiple times on Trent Williams yesterday. So if there's a guy whose stock I'm buying on either side of the ball, I'm going to go Drake Jackson on defense, and I'm going to go this Willis kid at tight end who Bonte pointed out. I really like the upside that he's got. Are there guys on either side of the ball who you're betting on who are maybe under the radar who could be players this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard on this team because it's so complete. So, where are these guys going to find reps and stuff like that? I mean, it would come through injuries, I think. There's some rookies that I've been looking at. Jalen Graham, for example. You rarely see a rookie line up at middle linebacker. And he did for a time last week. I mean, this week. I mean, it's with the third team defense, so it's not a big deal. But I think it signals just how sharp this guy is, because they usually, start these guys out at that Sam position, the strong side linebacker position, the spot that Azeez Al-Shaair played the last few years, and then they give him some will linebacker reps, and then, like in their second season, they have them starting to play middle linebacker. Well, Graham did all that in the spring, and then he was at middle linebacker yesterday. I don't think that's his position, but it just shows you where his brain is, that he picked up the defense very quickly. He's a sharp, versatile guy. He's somebody I think you keep an eye on, maybe not this year, but in upcoming seasons. Both of the rookie tight ends, I think that's something to watch. They really like Cameron Latou. The question is, how quickly can he sort of seize that number 2 role? They definitely see him in that in the future. He was a tight end convert. He moved from not just an offensive position, he moved from outside linebacker to tight end at Alabama. So he's a little bit behind the curve when it comes to learning that position. But where he is at the start of training camp to where he is at the end of training camp, I think will be really interesting to watch, because he's got all the tools to be that number 2 guy to George Kittle this year.
All right, Matt, good stuff as always, man. We'll be looking for your work today at training camp as well. You break it down as well as anybody out there. Matt, we always appreciate the time here on The Roast.
All right, anytime, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, buddy.
Anytime. Matt Barrows, Athletic. Good breakdowns there. See, everybody has different opinions. He's talked about Cameron Latou, and I thought Will